Hello everyone, I'm back with my next video on the poem Small Pain in My Chest, and this poem is written by Mack. Let us first go through the summary. The poem tells us about the poet's meeting with a soldier boy who was sitting calmly underneath a tree. Seeing the dead bodies lying around, the poet knows that the battle was hard and lasted through the night. The soldier wants a sip of water because he didn't get time to rest or drink water through the night. The poet notices a large reddish brown stain on his shirt and knows that it's a mixture of his blood and soil. The soldier reiterates that he considers himself to be lucky because his other fellow soldiers didn't even survive. The soldier then narrates how the battle unfolded and how he received the small pain in his chest. Though he is grateful to be alive, he finds it silly that a man of his size got defeated by a small pain in the chest. He wonders what his wife and mother would think of him. He says he wants to rest for a while and quietly dies from the small pain in his chest. The poet vaguely remembers that he cried. As he held the soldier boy close, he could feel their wounds pressed together. The soldier's small physical wound against the large wound in the poet's heart. Now here is the explanation of the poem. On the left side, that is the red part, is the poem, and on the right side is the meaning of it, the paraphrase of it. Let's read paragraph wise and try to understand what the poet wants to say. The soldier boy was sitting calmly underneath that tree. As I approached it, I could see him beckoning to me. The battle had been long and hard and lasted through the night, and scores of figures on the ground lay still by morning's light. The poet wants to say, the poem begins with the meeting of narrator with a soldier boy who was sitting under a tree. As the narrator was nearing him, the soldier invited him, waving his hand. The narrator then gives us an idea of the battle. He says it was a long and hard and lasted through the night. He also sees a number of bodies lying still on the ground. These are the bodies of the soldiers who had died in the battle. I wonder if you would help me, sir? He smiled as best as he could. A sip of water on this morn would surely do me good. We fought all day and fought all night with scarcely any rest. A sip of water, for I have a small pain in my chest. When the narrator went to the wounded soldier, he smiled at his best to hide his pain and asked the narrator for some help. He says he will surely be feeling well if he gets a sip of water in this fine morning, as he was fighting all day and night without any rest. Moreover, he needs some water because he is having a small pain in his chest. As I looked at him, I could see the large stain on his shirt, all reddish brown from his warm blood mixed in with Asian dirt. Not much, said he. I count myself more lucky than the rest. They are all gone while I just have a small pain in my chest. The paraphrase is, though the soldier speaks of small pain in his chest, the narrator looks at him and finds a large reddish brown blood stain on his shirt. It has been a mixture of his blood and the local Asian soil. The soldier assures the narrator that his wound is not so serious and he considers himself luckier than his fellow soldiers, as they have already died, whereas he has survived with only a small pain in his chest. Paragraph 4. Must be fatigue, he weakly smiled. I must be getting old. I see the sun is shining bright and yet I'm feeling cold. We climbed the hill 200 strong, but as we cleared the crest, the night exploded and I felt the small pain in my chest. The meaning is, this time the soldier smiles weakly. He consoles himself saying that he is feeling weak because he is too tired and he is growing older. The boy tells the narrator that though there is bright sunlight, he is feeling cold. He then gives an account of what happened the previous night. He says that a troop of 200 soldiers climbed the hill. When they reached the top, there was an explosion and he got the small pain in his chest. I looked around to get some aid. The only things I found were big, deep craters in the earth, bodies on the ground. I kept on firing at them, sir. I tried to do my best, but finally sat down with a small pain in my chest. The soldier continues his story. He looked around and tried to get some help, but he could only find some deep craters in the ground caused by the explosion and the dead bodies of his fellow soldiers. He went on firing at his enemies as long as he could. He tried his best to win the battle, but he could not do that and finally sat down with a small pain in his chest. I'm grateful, sir, he whispered as I handed my canteen and smiled a smile that was, I think, the brightest that I have seen. Seems silly that a man my size, so full of women's zest, could find himself defeated by a small pain in his chest. The soldier expresses his gratitude. I'm grateful, sir, when the narrator gives him his flask of water. The soldier again smiles, and this time so heartily that the narrator felt it to be the brightest smile he had ever seen. It reveals the soldier's mental strength. He is hiding his pain by his smile. The soldier then expresses his regret. It seems silly to him that a powerful, brave and energetic man like him is now defeated by a small pain in his chest. What would my wife be thinking of her man so strong and grown if she could see me sitting here too weak to stand alone? Could my mother have imagined as she held me to her breast that I'd be sitting here one day with this pain in my chest? The soldier now wonders what his wife would think of him if she found him in such a condition. The soldier knows that his wife considers him to be a hero, a strong and a grown-up man. So she would not believe that a small pain in his chest could make him so weak. He also thinks of his mother. His mother, while holding him close to her chest in his childhood, had never imagined that his son would be sitting here one day with his small pain in his chest. Can it be getting dark so soon? He winced up at the sun. It's growing dim, and I thought that the day had just begun. I think before I travel on, I'll get a little rest. And quietly the boy died from that small pain in his chest. The ill-fated soldier boy can no longer withstand the fatal wound and the great pain. He is nearing his death. The boy now looks up at the sun and everything is getting dark in his eyes, even in the bright morning. He wonders, can it be getting dark so soon? I thought that the day had just begun. The lines have some great implications. The day here also indicates the life of the soldier, which had just begun and he had a long future ahead. He could not believe that it was ending so soon. Here getting dark indicates the end of the day as well as the end of his life. Then he tells the narrator that he would take some rest before he goes further, and then the boy dies from the small pain in his chest. The narrator realizes that the soldier succumbed to his injury and the pain was not really small. I don't recall what happened then. I think I must have cried. I put my arms around him and I pulled him to my side. And as I held him to me, I could feel our wounds were pressed, the large one in my heart against the small one in his chest. The narrator says he cannot recall what happened thereafter. The narrator thinks he might have cried, put his arms around the dead soldier boy, pulled him to his side and held him to his body. Then comes the narrator's feelings. He also felt a pain in the soldier's death. And that was a big one, unlike the soldier. He says their wounds were pressed together. The soldier received a physical wound, so it was rather small pain in a sense. But the wound the narrator received was in his heart, so it was a large one. He felt extremely sad in the futility of war, which takes away so many great young lives. So that was the poem and the paraphrase. Let us quickly start with the question and answers. Question A. What does the narrator observe about the soldier's demeanor? The answer is, the narrator observes that the soldier boy was sitting calmly underneath a tree. Question B. How does he describe the battleground? The answer is, the battle had been long and hard and lasted all through the night. By morning, the battleground was full of soldiers who had died in the battle. They had fought through the day and night without any rest. Question C. What did the soldier boy ask for? The answer is, the soldier boy asked for a sip of water. Question D. How does the soldier boy describe the moment when he felt a small pain in his chest? The answer is, he says that 200 of them climbed a hill. However, the moment they went over the crest of the hill, there were loud explosions, and that is when he felt a small pain in his chest. Question E. Why does he count himself lucky? The answer is, he counts himself lucky because while the others were all dead, he only felt a small pain in his chest. Question F. What in his imagination would the boy's wife and mother think of him if they saw him in that condition? The answer is, in his imagination, his wife and mother would wonder how he could land in that state, feeling so weak and alone. Question D. Question G. How does the narrator describe the end? The answer is, the soldier boy died without realizing that he was dying. He kept wondering why the sun looked dim or why he felt cold. The narrator cried and put his arms around the soldier boy and pulled him to his side. He felt a deep sense of pain in his heart as he held the soldier boy, who had died young from a battle wound. Now let us start with the reference to context questions. Question A. I wonder if you would help me, sir. He smiled as best he could. A sip of water on this morn would surely do me good. So this was the extract. Now let us see the question and answers. Question 1. What does the boy smile under these circumstances tell us about him? The answer is, the boy's smile tells us that he was a cheerful, well-mannered, polite boy who was full of life. Question 2. What did the narrator notice on the boy's shirt? The answer is, the narrator noticed a large reddish-brown stain on his shirt. Question 3. How many soldiers were there initially? The answer is, there were 200 soldiers initially. Question 4. What did the boy do after being hit on the chest? The answer is, after being hit on the chest, the boy looked around to get some help or aid. Now let us see the next extract. Seems silly that a man my size, so full of women's zest, could find himself defeated by a small pain in his chest. Now that was the extract. Let's see the questions. What is the irony in the lines above? The answer is, the irony is that while he thinks it is a small pain, it is not small at all. It is a fatal wound that would end up killing him. Question 2. Do you think that the boy realizes he is mortally wounded? Give reason. The answer is, the boy does not realize that he is mortally wounded. He keeps saying that the pain was small. If he had realized that he was fatally wounded, he would not have tried to justify him feeling cold or weak. Question 3. What did the boy say before he died? The answer is, before he died, the boy said that he would get a little rest before he would travel on. Question 4. What did the narrator do then? The answer is, the narrator cried, then he put his arms around the boy, pulled him to his side and held him close. Now let us start with think and answer questions. Question 1. What is the theme of the poem? The answer is, the theme of the poem is futility of war and how it leads to the loss of young and innocent lives. It highlights the highly destructive and tragic nature of war. The poem also explores the idea of pain, both physical and emotional, and the ways in which people try to cope with it. Question 2. Explain the irony in the title of the poem. The answer is, the title of the poem is ironic because though the soldier boy keeps referring to the pain as small, he does not realize that it is a fatal wound that would eventually lead to his death. His life is cut short as if it is a minor inconvenience in the war. This underscores the idea that war devalues life and reduces people to statistics rather than acknowledging their humanity and individuality. Question 3. What are the things the boy says which makes the reader realize that he was dying? The answer is, there are several things that the boy says in the poem that makes the reader realize that he was dying. The first is that he asks the narrator for a sip of water, indicating that he is thirsty and probably dehydrated because of injuries. Then he mentions that he has a small pain in his chest, which is initially downplayed by the boy as a minor thing. However, it turns out to be much more serious as the poem progresses. He also mentions that he is feeling cold. Finally, the boy says that he needs to rest. The narrator then realizes that the boy has died, which confirms that the boy had been mortally wounded. Question 4. Why did the narrator feel that the boy's smile was the brightest? The answer is, the narrator felt that the boy's smile was the brightest that he had seen because the soldier boy was of a pleasant disposition and a positive attitude. Despite his pain, the soldier still smiled and expressed gratitude to the narrator when he offered him water. The smile was innocent and untouched by the cruelty of war. The narrator felt that it represented his humanity and an undying human spirit. All of these things made him smile the brightest. I hope the video was helpful to you. Do let me know in the comment section what you think about war that causes death, loss of life, loss of property, bloodshed, and there are so many people who are left abandoned, children are orphaned, so many women become widows, so many people die in this. What are your opinion about war?